let's make another witch costume because it's October and I don't need a reason. So back in April, I made this spring witch costume. She's cute, she's flowy, she's pastel. Oh, look at the lace, the flowers. Love it. And somebody suggested in the comments of that video to do witch for all seasons, which was a great idea. And then I missed summer. Oops, there's another one coming around. But we're in fall now, so we're gonna make a fall witch for Ren Fair again, actually. And I've been making a lot of chainmail recently. So I wanted this costume to incorporate my chainmail in some way because it's not getting used, frankly, and it's quite disappointing to myself and the chainmail. It complains about it all the time. So in order to appease my armor, we're gonna make a costume just for it. So in designing and trying to figure out what this costume was gonna be, I didn't want it to be a replica of the spring witch with the little corset and the thing and the skirt. I needed it to be completely different. And in some of my original designs, I was going to use the skirt from the spring witch and just dye it. But we moved on. So I needed a reason for my witch to be wearing chainmail. I mean, you don't really need a reason. You can just do it if you want. That's fine. I just needed to justify it for my character. Why is she wearing chainmail? What is a witch doing in chainmail? That's because she's a battle witch. That's right. We have a fall battle witch. She is ready to kick some ass. So let's go ahead and check out the concept art. Here is my fall battle witch. Our color scheme is red, black, and gold. I like it. Starting from top to bottom, we have a witch's hat. I don't know how, the hat will probably be the last thing I do. And I will probably forget about it, honestly, until the end. Moving along. The thing that is on top of everything is a chainmail dress tunic. It doesn't have sides, so it just has a front and a back. So my battle witch is a range fighter. She casts spells. She's not in the battle, but she does have something to cover her vital organs in the front. Protect herself here. On top of that, we are going to be making some leather leaf, what is it called? A gorget? It's either gorget or gorget, I think.
This word is pronounced as gorget.
Seems like a French word, so gorget. It's a neck shoulder thing, and it is leaf shaped and leather. Okay, so here is where I almost tossed this whole project because there's another YouTuber that I really like and whose channel is way bigger than mine. And she did a chainmail video after I had gotten into chainmail and was thinking about making a video on chainmail, and then she made a video on chainmail and I was like, I don't want to do that because then it'll seem like I'm copying her. And then I designed this character and then she put out a video with leather leaf armor and I was like, yeah. So apparently we're on the same brain waves. I redesigned the concept a little bit. It was still going to be fall and still decided to do leather armor because I want to. I've wanted to make leather armor for a long time. So I'm not going to not do it. And honestly, I don't think this YouTuber would care. The original design did have maple leaf leather bits all over because that's pretty ubiquitous with fall. So I did change that. Less maple leafy. Leather pieces we're gonna make are the gorget, the belt, and the bracers. Moving along, next layer. We have this black bit that I am calling her battle garb, battle tunic. If she were standing with her army, all the other battle witches would also be wearing this tunic. They might not all be dressed the same, but the tunic, this bit, they would all be wearing, whatever you would call that. And then underneath that is going to be a kurdle-like dress. I have two different patterns that I got for this, and I cannot decide which one I want. But that's okay for now, because the first thing we gotta do is the chainmail. I've actually been working on the chainmail for a couple months now. That's how long I've had this costume idea in my mind. Well, I mean, I was making this and then I was going to make the costume around it because I knew I wanted this piece. So to talk a little bit about chainmail, but not a tutorial. If you want a tutorial, I learned how to make my chainmail from Lauren Does Cosplay. I think that's her name. I'll put it over here. And she has very good videos on how to make chainmail and skill mail. So I learned from her. The process of making chainmail is pretty easy, but it is not something that can be rushed. There are no shortcuts. You can't cheat code your way out of it. It is a slow process, which I've really enjoyed doing. I usually do it at night when I'm watching TV, just sitting in front of the couch. So the things that you need to make chainmail are simply 2 pairs of pliers. I suggest getting some with a little bit thicker of a handle because I feel like that would help with your little hands because it can be a little tiring. And the next thing you're gonna need are your rings, your jump rings. The ones that I've used for this piece and the ones that I'm using for the Tunic are, I believe they're 16 gauge 5/8 rings, aluminum. I'll link them in the description. So the way chainmail is made, or the way the jump rings are made, is that they take this long wire and they wrap it around like a dowel rod, and then they cut it. So you get these slightly off-center pieces of rings. So when you get your little bag of rings in, the first thing you're gonna do is prep them. And you do this by opening some and closing others. Prepping rings is like the most time-consuming part of making chainmail. Really takes forever. So now you have a bunch of rings that are open, a bunch of rings that are closed. Now, the method that I use for making all my chainmail is a 4-in-1, which means I'm gonna take one of my open rings and put 4 of the closed rings on it and then close it. And then I do this until all of my closed rings are gone. Now we start attaching them. To start my chainmail process, I design out what I'm gonna make and then use a tape measure to hold it against myself to figure out like how wide I want places to be, how long places need to be, and sketch that up. After we have that figured out, we can start putting together 4-in-1s. The widest part of the tunic ended up being 21 4-in-1s wide, and you just kind of go from there. So I'm going to continue to work on the chainmail at night until I am finished with it. Hopefully will be before I film the reveal, which is the goal for that. Moving along to the next thing, which is the leather armor. We're doing that next because I want to, and I'm very excited about leatherworking. So I went to my nearest Tandy Leather. One of the workers there also does costuming leather work, like makes armor and stuff. So she was extremely helpful and helped me gather all my materials that I needed. I ended up getting a full shoulder, which is a lot, but I have so many things I want to make. Not just for this project, but like other things. So there's a really good deal on it. Now, I like to work with patterns. I find them very helpful, especially if I don't know what I'm doing. Since this is the first time I'm working with leather, I wanted a pattern for this. So I got this pattern here, and I will link them down below. Did not come with any instructions. So, also, somebody in the reviews said that it was not great for beginners. So, of course, I immediately saw that and said, challenge accepted. So I get my leather home, print out my pattern, and the first thing we gotta do is cut everything out, which, listen, I am one of those people who looks at something and goes, how hard could it be? Most of the time, it's not that hard, and I'm able to make things, which continues to fuel the how hard could it be fire and gives me the audacity to think that I can just take on anything, really. There's that Instagrammer or TikToker who says, what did she say? It's extremely delusional, but also very helpful. Yes. So I get my leather home. First thing I do, put my pattern down, trace it all with an owl. Owl? Little pointy guy. Here. Scratch it on with this. Then I take a box cutter and an X-Acto blade and cut everything out. Cutting dried skin is not like cutting through butter. My little hands hurt after I got everything cut out. A little rough going. But we made it through. After it's all cut out, we need to get it wet so that we can mark in our leafy veins. So you just like spray it down to a amount, then you can mark in it. I got this little guy, which is called a swivel knife, which is actually super cool. And I was able to use this to mark in all my leaf lines fairly easily. It was kind of fun to use this little thing. So we go through, we mark all the veins. So before I started anything, I did play around with the leather and test it out and make little leather pieces that I just kind of decorated and made sure I knew how to work everything. And then I made this one to decide if I wanted this project to be in brown or black. Ultimately, I did like the look of the brown and the gold a little more, but now this is important. My boots are black, and it would just be absurd to have brown everything else with black boots. So we go with black. We stick with the original design of black and gold. I also practiced on here and used a shine finish and a satin finish. Decided I like the shine finish, so that's what we're gonna go with. Black, gold, and shiny. After everything's cut out and scored, we use this little Q-tip-like guy to dye everything black. Getting the sides and the creases, make sure it's all dyed. After the base layer of black is put down, we go over with gold. The original concept art, the gold was all over the armor, but after doing my test pieces, I decided I only wanted the gold in the veins. So we take the gold with a little brush, paint it on, we do 2 layers, make sure it stands out. So I dyed everything when it was all still kind of damp. After everything was dried, I decided I wanted to shape the pieces before I put the finish on them. I don't remember why now, but it seemed like the right thing to do at the time. So to shape them, I just got them wet. After I painted them, I wasn't able to get them wet from the front anymore. It seemed like the dye kind of repelled the water slightly. So I did it from the back. Just like, got them real wet, folded them, kind of molded them in the way I wanted them to be. So now we have this. I think it's looking really good. Gold stands out enough, and I think after I get the shine finish on there, it'll look even better. So that's the next thing I gotta do, is put the finish on it. Oh, and then sew everything together. So after I put the finish on, I'll sew it all together. I don't know how to do that yet. I think a saddle stitch is needed, but I don't know how to do a saddle stitch, so I'll have to check in with YouTube University and figure that out. I'm gonna go ahead and add the finish on this, and while that's drying, we need to make our bracers. I have no pattern for bracers, but they don't seem like they really need a pattern. So I just took a piece of paper and kind of wrapped it around my arm and then drew a rough guess of the shape I wanted, cut that out, put it back on my wrist, decided that was gonna work, and then folded it in half and cut it again so that it would be symmetrical. We're left with this weird shape, which will wrap around my forearm. Can't get it to do it because... Okay, here's also a weird thing about my arm. I am double jointed, so my arm is weird. I don't know how to show you this, but see, it's a little weird. So making this bracer was a little strange, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. So it'll lace up on the inside. Here's a rough design that I have for it. So it'll all be black, and then the leaves will be gold, and then the inside will have the black but the gold on top of it. And I don't think I'll do this leafy thing in the middle, but there's that. Here's a little thing. When you're wearing chainmail against your bare skin, it really kind of pulls at your little hairs. It's catching my arm hairs every now and then. It's slightly uncomfortable. So that's just something to keep in mind when wearing chainmail, I guess. We need to continue on. We have too many things to do to be goofing. Cut it out. Let's go ahead and put the shiny coat on this and sew it up, and then move on to the next thing, which is, I don't know yet. So let's find out. I decided to start with my battle smock, which is now what I'm calling it. I wanted to try something new because trying new things and learning new skills is what I live for, basically. So I'm gonna try drafting this pattern on myself because I don't have a pattern for it or anything like it, really. I've never drafted a pattern on myself before, but I do have quite a bit of sewing knowledge, and I have made a lot of things, so I feel like this is something I can tackle. So how I start this is in front of the mirror, I drape the fabric across myself and then lightly sketch out where I want it to all sit. After I have that, I cut it out, trace it out on a piece of paper, cut it out. I use that to also form the back. I didn't get footage of that because I'm bad at my job. but it's basically the same thing, except I want the center back to go down into a point instead of like coming open like the front does. Trace that out, cut it out of some fabric, and then sew up a true mock-up. Take it back over to the mirror. And the way you adjust fit for your mock-ups is you just kind of like, you just like pinch fabric together where it needs to be. So I know I want 2 center darts, so I'm just pinching it, pinning it. The shoulder was a little too long, pinch it, pin it. While I'm doing this, I'm only doing one side, the left side, because I'm right-handed. You don't need to do it to both because you're gonna trace it on a piece of paper and you don't need both sides, you only need one because it's symmetrical. So when I'm pinching both sides, but I'm only pinning one side. And then I had an issue with the front, kind of doing a weird like gapey thing. So I just take another piece of fabric, pin it down along the edge, redraw it, recut it. Decided that looked good. Now I'm gonna take it to the floor and we need to make all the adjustments that we put the pins in. So I start with the darts. So I get out my French rulers and I use just one. There's only one ruler. French ruler. One ruler to roll them all. Okay, I get out my French ruler and I use this to make the curved darts. And then I cut the dart out. I'll show you why in just a second. Next thing we need to do is trim off the shoulders and then cut out the bit that I added in the front. Now we're gonna transfer it back over to paper so we have a paper pattern. Lay it all flat on paper, trace it out, and then we're able to trace the dart because we cut it out of the fabric, right? So, Oh, and everything we did to the front, we also did to the back. Done, we have patterns. This is what our front pattern looks like. And the back looks pretty similar. So I went to cut these out of the fabric and realized I didn't have enough. And in no universe was I gonna make it work, which is extremely frustrating. I had to go to the fabric store. Got more black velvet. Yay! So now we need to go ahead and cut out our battle smock. We're gonna cut it out twice. We have the outside fabric, which is the velvet, and then we got the inside fabric, which I'm just gonna use a black cotton for. Now normally with velvet, you can't press it unless you have a velvet board, which is just this board with a bunch of like pins in it. And then you would press your velvet on that, because if you were to press it just on your ironing board, you're gonna smush your velvet and then you have crushed velvet, which is probably not what you want. But somebody did recently tell me that you can iron velvet with a big fluffy towel. So I'm gonna try that on a test piece, not my actual thing. Let's see if that works. Okay, so I actually didn't get any footage of ironing the velvet because, well, you'll see in a minute, but ironing it on the towel was okay, but really what actually worked for me was just using the steam and not actually touching the velvet with the iron at all. So I just used the steam and then used one of my clappers to kind of push it down just a little bit, and that worked really like shockingly well. Back to the video. So we're just gonna sew the velvet and the lining separately, and then we're gonna put them together, wrong sides together, and just lightly stitch down the outside. And the way we'll sew it together is by the bias binding. We gotta make some bias binding. I really have a lot of things to do, and I have not finished a single one thing. I just keep jumping from thing to thing to thing. I have 3 things going right now. That's cool. All right, let's keep going while we got the energy. Because my work table was an absolute mess from all the leatherworking I was doing, I had to cut my fabric out on the floor, which I don't normally do. Now, the velvet sheds quite a bit, so it gets caught up in the scissor blades, which makes cutting more and more difficult. So I wipe the blades off and then continue to cut, and that helps. Well, you should really be careful when you do this because I tried to cut my finger off. Okay, progress update. Finger's doing better. A little sensitive, but it's usable mostly now. Chainmail update. The front is done. Now we just gotta do the back. And I did a bunch of really stupid chainmail math to make sure I had enough jump rings to finish this. And I thought I ordered extra, but I'm a little worried I don't have enough now. So I guess we'll see. Also, this is a little heavy. Those rings weigh nothing until you get a whole bunch together, and then you're like, holy cow. I kind of started stitching the leather together. So I sewed this bit on. I did try to look up a tutorial, but sometimes people talk too slow and I can't focus, or whatever reason. I just can't. Like, sewing leather together did not keep my attention, so I made up this stitch. And I think I did it right, though. The way I did it was based off of the information I did gather from the few videos that I tried to watch. Took some waxed thread, put a needle on both ends, and then to keep the needle from falling off, I would thread it, and then you poke through part of the thread and like pull it tight. And then it's a lot easier to sew through the top than it is to come through the bottom, because sometimes the hole in the back is just like kind of barely there from the way I like stamped it in. So I start by putting the needle through the first hole and then taking the top needle and going down through the bottom one, and then taking the bottom one and going back up through the same hole that I went in through the top, and then just kind of continued that down. I think that's how you do it. Also, they kept talking about a pony, saddle pony or something, threading pony. I don't know, but I didn't do that. I didn't need a pony. No ponies here. Just sewed it on. So that's how I'm gonna do all of these. I still gotta put them all on and then attach these two pieces, and then I'm gonna use rivets to attach the shoulders to the neck. Terrific. Moving along. After I cut my finger, I could not work for the rest of the day because finger would not stop bleeding. Yeah, those scissors were sharp. Sometimes you need to wipe the fuzz off of your scissors. Maybe use a piece of fabric and not your finger. I've done this like literally hundreds of times, just wiping the fuzz off of my scissors, and I've never cut myself once until the other day when I tried to cut my finger clean off. Anyways, I went back, finished cutting out the battle smock. So for the battle smock, I cut out the dart, which made transferring the dart so much easier, and I'm kind of mad that I've never figured that out before. I've been sewing for a really long time. Why don't I just cut the darts out on everything? And maybe I'll figure out why later, but like, this seems like a legit way to do it. When you have darts like that are shaped like a diamond, you want to start sewing the dart at the middle point and go up or down, I suppose. You don't want to back stitch the end of the dart. You want to pull it out and leave some thread and then tie it off at the end. And then you go back to the middle and then sew the other side down. So I currently have, I guess it's probably hard to tell because of it's black on black, but the outside of the smock and the lining of the smock are put together. They're just being held on by pins right now. I have this gold bias tape that I made, and bias tape is cut on a 45-degree angle, which will give it like some stretch so you can like go over curves and everything. I made mine pretty thick because I want it to be a double folded bias tape. So I'm gonna sew this right sides together to my garment, and then I will fold it over and then fold in the raw edge and then fold it over one more time so that the edge of the battle smock is encased between the bias tape. And then I also have this trim. The way I'm gonna attach this is after I've done the bias tape all around the battle smock, I am going to sew down just this little tiny thin bit in the middle. So that's where we're at with the battle smock. I still have a lot to do with this project and I'm kind of freaking out about it at this current moment. Come up to the office very early today and I plan on working all day. Let's jump forward in time and check out how this battle smock came out, shall we? There is a little bit of like a Christmas vibe to this. Is that just me? But I think it works. It's a little small, but I'm gonna fix that with the clasp. But I think I'll be okay. This is done. I just need the closure for it, which I have ordered and it's not here yet. So we can check something off the list. So what do I do now? Let me make a list and go through what I still need to make for this costume. I still need to sew the gorget together. Still need to make the bracers. the belt, a little pouch for the belt, probably, and maybe some skirt hikes. I still need to make the whole ass dress. And I haven't decided on the pattern, but is that it? A hat. Oh, I still have a whole hat. Okay, hat, no big deal. Hat's fine. I should probably work on the dress. Yeah, okay, the dress. Let's deal with that.
So the first thing I do after getting the pattern cut out is I make a quick mock-up without any adjustments.
So I made a few adjustments here. I decided to take the zipper out of the back and give it a center front lace closure. So I've cut that. And then the sleeve was sitting really weird. It was like I couldn't lift my arm, but the rest of the fit is pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting this out of the real fabric.
There's 3 layers to this dress: the outside fabric, the lining, and the inner lining. I used this really soft, buttery voile for the outside fabric. It was a little thin and slightly sheer, so I used a black linen rayon blend for the lining and a black duck canvas for the inner lining to really give it some structure. After getting all 3 layers cut out, you just sew up all the seams in each layer separately. After everything is sewn, take them over to the iron and press all the seams open. Now take your inner lining layer, and we need to add some boning channels. I used some old bias tape I had in my stash and just sew them down over the seams, closing the bottom of the channel so that there's only one opening at the top. Then take your boning, cut them down to size, and round out the edges so that they don't cut into your fabric. You clip off the corners, and you can use a nail file or sandpaper to round them out, or since mine are plastic, I just use a little candle and kind of melt the edge a little. Insert the boning and put all 3 layers together. We're bag lining this dress, so we need to line everything up at the top. Leaving the underarm open, we sew straight across the back. And before we sew the front, we need to mark the front opening where the lacing is going to go. I just draw a line straight down the center front. Now when you sew the front together, you're going to sew around this line. So once you get a few millimeters away from the line, pick up your presser foot, turn your dress 90 degrees, and then sew just a smidge over from the line. Once you reach the bottom, pick your presser foot up again, turn your fabric, sew a few stitches over, and then turn your fabric one more time and sew just a few millimeters over from the first line of stitching. Now this part's a little scary because there's no tape axes, but you're gonna cut straight down that line you made, right between the 2 lines of stitching. After cutting it, you want to flip everything right side out. Now I decided that the sleeve pattern that came with this dress was cute, but it was not the drama that I wanted. So I just drafted these sleeves off of some images I found on Pinterest, keeping the underarm shape from the original sleeve pattern. I cut these out of the outside fabric and the lining and then sewed them together, leaving the underarm open, and then flip them right sides out and give them a good press. Since I had done this, I decided to hand stitch the top closed, sewing just like 6 inches or so down. Then I take them over the machine and sew the underarms together. Nice. I really liked how the hand stitching looked on the sleeve, so I decided to hand sew the boning channel I added to the front of the bodice to add some structure to where the lacing goes. And this looked really nice. And since we're on a hand sewing kick, I decided to do some hand sewn eyelets. I went with spiral lacing because I like the look of it, and because anytime I see spiral lacing, it makes me go, nice. Like, if you know kind of thing. I set a timer to see how long it would take me to hand sew these eyelets, and it took just under 2 hours. Some of them look pretty rough, and there's only about 5 that are really nice, but overall, I'm really happy with how they look. I did mess up with these though. I mismarked one side, so when the dress is all laced up, it shifts a little bit, so that one side seems longer than the other, which is a bummer, but nothing I can do about it now, so. And after a quick hem of the bottom, she's all done, and I am so in love. It's like a childhood dream come true. I feel like a beautiful elf in this dress. Ugh, dream.
Oh boy, you guys. This is taking longer than I thought. I knew this project was gonna take me more time than my other project because of how many parts there are and because of learning a new skill. So I gave myself 3 weeks for this project, but I thought I would finish it in less than 3 weeks so that I could start my next project and have a little bit more time for that one. But that is not happening. This project is gonna take me all the time that I have. Also, October is the busiest month for me at work. Like, it's probably 3 times busier in October than it is in any other month. So I'm a little tired. Things that are completely 100% done.
Gorgeous.
The battle smock and the dress. And oh my God, I am so in love with this dress. It's so cute. It's so pretty. I cannot wait to put it on. Things I still have left to make. I have cut out the bracers and the belt, but that is it. They still need to be beveled, carved, engraved, painted, and then the belt needs to be sewn to the O-ring and the bracers need eyelets. So that's quite a bit just right there. I still need a hat, so I gotta make that. Oh, chainmail. I am not as far along in the chainmail as I need to be. And I also think I did my chainmail math wrong because I don't have enough jump rings for it to be as long as I wanted, which is okay. It's just gonna be a little bit shorter. That's totally fine. That's not reassuring myself. I really do think that's totally fine. So I'm gonna use all the jump rings I have and make it as long as it can be, but if it's a little bit shorter, it's okay. So those are the things we still need to do. I feel like the hat's gonna be the easiest thing because I've made hats before, and I've actually made a witch hat before. I don't know where it is. Where's my witch hat? It's missing, I guess. I don't know where it is. There's a witch hat somewhere. So I'll save the hat for last. Let's get started on, I guess, the bracers and the belt. This is gonna be a very similar process to the
Gorgeous.
I mean, like identical. So let's just go ahead and skip into like a little montage of making that, shall we? It's giving wart. Everything is so very nearly done. I mean, most everything is done. I'm just so very nearly done with this project. We got bracers. They are being shaped. With the bracers, I have this little tool where you like hit it with a hammer and it puts a little hole in there, and then it also has little eyelet tools. So you like you hammer. So I did that with my bracers, and then I got them damp so that after I laced them up, I could let them dry in this position. So they'll be nice and they'll stay rounded once these are dry. Bracers done. 2 belts. This little one is actually to wear under everything. I need to hike up my dress because she's going into battle and she can't go into battle with this long dress. She might get caught up in it. That's silly. So we need to hike up the dress. So I made skirt hikes, which will go on to the little belt. So this belt will go on over the dress with the skirt hikes, hike the skirt. Chainmail goes over that, or battle smock, then chainmail, then big belt, hat. I am working on it. 'Tis in pieces. 'Tis a good size. So I had to go to the store and get wire, which is somewhere. Where are you hiding yourself? So that'll be the next thing we do, is putting the wire in the brim of the hat. And then we will attach these 2 together. And after they're attached, I'm gonna go through and kind of like fold this and then tack it down, because I like my witch's hats to be like this. I don't like them straight up, like this. I got a lot done on the chainmail, but it's still not done. So I'm still working on that, but I'm gonna go ahead and put the wire in the hat and attach this. So Howdy. Holy shit, I think I did it. I think holy crap. Wow. This was a lot. Yeah, this was a lot. I cannot wait to see everything together. This video is probably so long. I don't know if I should apologize or not. You know what? I'm not going to. How about, you're welcome. All right, enough of that. It's time for the reveal, okay? Reveal time. Let's go. Oh my gosh. That was so fun. That costume is so fun. I cannot wait to wear it to the Ren Fair this weekend. The only adjustment I'm going to make to it before I go is the hat. The inside of the hat is a little, like the top part of the hat is a little floppy because I didn't put structure in it like I did with the brim of the hat. So I just need to go back in and add a lining. My complaints for this one is that the battle smock kind of like gaped a little bit on the front part. And I wished it would have not done that. That's kind of my only complaint with it. I think everything else is pretty good. I love the dress. Oh my gosh. I love the dress. Oh, and I think I need to add some type of closure to the gorget in the front right here. The original design did have a little lace bit here and around the arms under each, like at the tip of the leaf. And I left them off because I thought it was okay, but it could really use them. I'm so glad that I did this. That chainmail dress is really cool. I gotta find a way to wear that. Just some casual armor. It weighs 2.5 pounds, by the way, in case you were wondering. I thought it was heavier, but 2.5 pounds. Well, that's it for me. If you would like to support me, please subscribe, like, and comment. That really helps out a whole lot. Tells YouTube that people really like it and should pump it out to more people. And I greatly appreciate it. And now I gotta start working on my Halloween video, so everybody quit talking to me. I got a lot of work to do. See you guys soon. Bye. But what are you called? Oh, I'm hungry. I forgot about my peanut butter jelly sandwich over there. Yeah.